Hello and welcome back. Oh, it's warm. I think it's only about 21 degrees outside, but this flat is excellent in the winter because it's so well insulated. You never need the heating on. But once June the 1st comes around and it gets above 20 degrees, it feels like you're constantly in the south of Spain. So apologies for my appearance. It may turn into something like the Goa podcasts that I did a couple of months ago. Thank you as always everyone for getting in touch. Best place to do so, comments section below, and if you have a longer story made with some pictures, you can email hi@tuesday@dobbs.com. I had a great start to the week this week. About 5 hours ago, I rode over on the Bonneville, just 20 minutes east, to drop off one of our Liberté Tuonos to Zane, who's a gentleman from up north who rode 4 hours down on his Triumph Scrambler 900 because he's heading off to Wheels and Waves. This is the big biking and surfing event in Biarritz, south of France. It happens every year, and it is the #1 biking event that I'm desperate to do. Next year, I must do Wheels and Waves. It's the #1 thing I don't want to miss. And seeing Zane this morning, just pulling up, beautiful green street scrambler, pictured here, with his tent on the back, full pannier, all the gear ready for a 3-week road trip. I was green with envy. Oh, green with envy. Zane, if you're watching this, which you're probably not because you're heading down south on a Euro trip, have the best time. I'd love to hear from all of you as well. What are, regardless of location, could be Australia, USA, Germany, France, England, UK, what are the best, not to be missed, biking events of the calendar? Genuinely, I would like to know this, so I'll share this in next week's podcast episode, but I want to know this because I really want to start doing some of these events. Some of them look fantastic. The two for me that look probably two of the biggest ones and the most impressive, ABR Festival and Wheels and Waves in France. Let me know. I'd love to hear. On now to cleaning bikes, where I said last week that it takes too long to clean bikes, and if I had to clean it after every ride, I just wouldn't ride. Yeah, probably 95% of people strongly disagreed with me there. There was a 5 or 10% of people that quite strongly agreed with me, so thank you for that. But Monica was delighted to see that I got ripped to pieces on that one. So message received. Most people like to clean their bikes after every ride. Now, build quality issues for Herald. Herald motorcycles. British, I think, originally British brand, bought by a Chinese company. They're now made in China. They make very, very decent looking 125cc and other small capacity motorbikes. Think mini Triumph Bonneville as an example. Connor has a fascinating bit of insight here, so I will share pictures as I read out Connor's journey into getting into biking and the bikes he's chosen. Freddie, I've always been a fan of motorcycles and decided to take the plunge in 2021, completing my CBT and buying my first bike. I was about to say Triumph Herald. Ignore that Triumph bit. A Herald Brat 125, pictured. It was a rocky start into the journey of biking, as this bike, this Herald, just caused me problem after problem and has put me off buying Chinese bikes ever again. It was reliably unreliable and took all the joy out. See, this is the problem, took all the joy out of biking to the point that I sold it for a £2,400 loss just to be rid of it. Putting that money towards my next bike that I purchased, which was a Yamaha XSR 125 Legacy Edition. The difference between or in build quality was noticeable from the moment I got on it, and that Japanese reliability never let me down. I didn't have any issues in the time that I owned it, and it made me enjoy biking again. I eventually went on and completed my direct access course, which is where you can ride any bike of any size, and I got my full license I stayed on the 125 until I saved enough money to buy my first big bike. Sticking with the Yamaha after being impressed with the little XSR, I went for the bigger brother, XSR 700. It was brand new when I got it, and it felt like a massive treat and mission accomplished. To finally have a bike I felt I could take on longer journeys. I planned my first trip for my 31st birthday starting near York, where I live, travelling up to Northumberland, where I spent a couple of nights glamping in a farmer's field. From here, I rode across the North Pennines, across towards the Lake District, down to the bottom of Lake Windermere, east to the Yorkshire Dales. I then rode west to east through the entirety of the Dales and stopped at Aysgarth Falls. I then doubled back onto the Buttertub Pass, which I did on the Transalp. All in all, the journey took me 5 days and I covered over 500 miles. Not as big as some others that you talk about on the podcast, but I'll take it as not a bad first try. I'm looking forward to the next adventure, and I'm keen to do the North Coast 500 next year. Connor, welcome to biking, and that's a fascinating insight you've given us there into the Heralds. It's a shame, but I've also heard similar stories about those Herald motorbikes. Chinese bikes, I'm sure, are improving, but it is going to genuinely take some time. For one, for the quality to actually genuinely get there, and secondly, for people to believe in Chinese motorbikes. And Connor, your experience is not out of the ordinary, unfortunately. Thank you so much for that, Connor. I've got some more words of warning here. Apologies for this, but sometimes if I have multiple people saying the same thing, I think I can't ignore it. I get so many stories that you're all so kind to send in, and a lot of them I desperately want to include in the podcast, but I just don't have time to squeeze it into about the half-hour slot that I have. But if there are multiple people saying the same thing, it's something that I just can't ignore, and I do have a few of those this time. So Aprilia, a word of warning. Let's start with John. Freddie, I love Aprilia, and I own a 2017 Tuono V4 factory. In terms of riding, it is one of the best bikes I've ever owned. But, and it is a big but, the ownership experience is really let down by parts availability, and eventually you will need a part. 5 months to get a rear position indicator switch. 5 months. Of course, the bike was still rideable without the gear position indicator, but it caused other issues, such as the bike wouldn't start in neutral without the clutch pulled in. Wouldn't idle in neutral either, with the side stand down. The bike didn't recognise it was in neutral. Also no cruise control, and so on. Even worse was a 3-month wait for a new TFT dash, and in this case the bike was unrideable without the dash. From what I hear from the staff on the Fowlers of Bristol parts desk, which is one of the biggest parts distributors in the UK, parts availability is a concern for the whole Piaggio group. Piaggio, of course, who own Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Aprilia, and a few other brands that I'm sure I've forgotten. And that affects all of the Piaggio group, including Moto Guzzi as well. John, again, very interesting insight. Let's move on to Mason. Freddie, I had a Futura. Well, this is the old Aprilia Futura that I recommended last week as a bike that's completely gone under the radar. Really, really highly regarded bike, meant to be incredibly reliable with an exceptionally good, strong engine. And I said last week, this is the bike to buy. Go up, buy one of these. You can get them for $1 or $2 grand. But I had three people messaging me, and I'll read out Mason's specific comment. I had a Futura for a year or so. It's a fun bike, but the electronics were rough, and it died on me on the highway at multiple times, so not reliable. I would rather have a Honda VFR 800, honestly. Yep, Mason, thank you for that, because the electrics, from what I've heard on the Futuras, are not good. I'll do one more from Ryan Hook. Old Aprilia, like the RSV Miller, Falco and Futura, well, they all had the Rotax twin engine, which is great and reliable. I had the Futura, but electrics were an issue. I really like the style. The Falco, however, electrics seem to be better. On now to Euro tripping. This is from Paul. Take note here. In fact, I've saved something on my desktop. I have to get this up. Take note if you're going traveling around Europe, but this is specifically for France. There may well be other countries that are similar. Talking of touring on older bikes, I insure with CN and the bike is covered for European breakdown. One point which you may know about, or you may not, is that bikes registered before the year 2000, bear this in mind, bikes registered before 2000 are not allowed to enter French cities with clean air zones. That's to crit air. They're getting more prevalent. Fines are stiff, crit air stickers are needed for all bikes, but they only cost €5. Let's have a look at this then. So, to be fair, this seems completely reasonable. In France, you need to get a little €5 sticker to confirm how environmentally friendly your bike is. If you ride in certain big cities, fine, that's okay. It looks like it's perfectly easy to do and it's not an issue. But you do have to take note of this. If you have an older bike from June 2000 and older, you're not allowed in any of these cities, regardless of when you ride into the city or if you get a crit air sticker or if you pay. The only payment you're going to be doing is paying a €150 fine if you ride into these cities with a bike older than the year 2000, which is plenty of people. So that's the year 2000 and older. But have a listen to this, because it will be getting more and more prevalent, as Paul says, because the concerned cities at the moment: Lyon, Marseille, Toulouse, Nice, Montpellier, Strasbourg, Grenoble, Rouen, Reims, Saint-Étienne, and Paris must be in there somewhere. They're the cities in there at the moment. However, from next year, 2025, all cities with more than 150 inhabitants will be required to introduce some form of low-emission mobility zone. 150,000 residents, citizens within a city is not that much. Paul, thanks for the heads up. On now to CFMoto, another Chinese brand. It looks intriguing, prices are brilliant, but what do you all think? I had a lot of input from this that I didn't expect. I'll start with the Geordie Monkey. Look at the CFMoto. The CFMoto 650 range. The price is unreal. Engine's basically a Kawasaki versus motor, TFT screen, loads of other stuff for £4,500. I've never clicked on these before. That is phenomenal value for a bike that looks perfectly good. If we go on looks, just looks, it looks every bit as good as the Honda Hornet, shall we say. And it's £4,500. A lot of people have been saying it's not 2 years warranty either. You get 4 years warranty with these bikes. Looks like a mix between a Suzuki GSX and a Hornet. That is staggeringly good value. Staggeringly good. But let me carry on a bit more. Dream Crusher says, be careful with the CFMoto 800MT. I looked into it. Residuals are bad. And this is interesting. Insurance is massive. Insurance for the CFMoto 800MT was double that of my Yamaha Tracer 9. The reason being, because it's so rare and it uses the KTM 790 engine, which has some big controversy with the camshafts falling apart at 20,000 miles. Again, other people have mentioned exactly this. I often say, CFMoto, great, they've got the KTM engines in it. A lot of people are saying, that's not necessarily a positive, having these KTM engines in. They are not known for their ruggedness. Continuing with Dream Crusher, it's also 30 kilograms heavier than the Transalp, not including the probably 20 kilos of panniers. Only time will tell with these, how the market finds them. For one, do they sell? And that will dictate, of course, what the used market is like. But do they have the longevity in terms of build quality to command at least semi-reasonable resale figures from a financial point of view? It'll be very, very interesting to see. I think if there's any Chinese brand that may be able to solidify themselves in some small way within the biking industry, it may well be CFMoto, because I hear a fair amount of decent stuff from them. On now to labour costs. This is after I discussed last week about a Spanish garage, I think it was a Kawasaki dealership, Kawasaki garage, that charges 35 euros labour. May have been Yamaha, but either one. 35 euros an hour labour. I haven't heard anything like that, very possibly all of my life in the UK. A few people have shared some other costs of labour. I found this interesting. This is from Laurie. Freddie, I have just paid £95 an hour plus VAT 20%, so you're looking at £114 from a Kawasaki dealer in Plymouth. So you're going from £114 to about £28 equivalent in Spain. It's close to £90 difference. On to Ken, over in the US. Labour costs at my local Honda dealership in San Francisco. Ken, I'm not even going to look at this. It's San Francisco. This will be phenomenally expensive. $125 US. Tell you what, that's £98, Ken, per hour. That's £16 less than Plymouth, Ken. It's a lot, but doesn't touch the UK stuff so far. Continuing with Ken, I just paid a service invoice last week with a whole lot of labour on it. And let's wrap it up with Mike, again in the UK. Triumph Lings per hour, £144 an hour. It's a lot, it's a lot. Okay, planned obsolescence, moving on, repairs. Oh, you know, this is why you almost really do have to try and do at least some of the work yourself. I'm almost talking to myself here, trying to G myself up, like, Fred, you have to do some of the work yourself, because it would turn into an even more expensive hobby if you don't. Okay, planned obsolescence, repairs, and consumer rights. Let me just, I know I tried to wrap it up last week, but I've had some really interesting feedback here that may potentially be of use to all of you, so I want to share this, and I'll start with Dimitri. Freddie, engineer here. Small correction. There was a time when products were made to fail, planned obsolescence, but now they are designed to become obsolete by making small changes in parts, so new parts cannot be used on older products, making it difficult or impossible to find parts for older models. So that's coming from an engineer. That is a fact. On to the Yorkie. A friend in France has a broken... Oh, I love this one. A friend in France has a broken washing machine. It cost €130 to repair, but the French government will give a refund of €50 because he's repairing it rather than renewing it. The Yorkie, that is one of the only examples I've ever heard in my life where a government will help you out and there's no ulterior motive. There's nothing else that the government's looking to gain from it. It genuinely is a case that the government just wants to reduce wastage. That is quite refreshing. On now to Mentat of June. I worked for Apple. This is important. I worked for Apple for nearly 10 years. Sorry, I worked for Apple nearly 10 years ago for a number of years. I remember the policy was to charge for repairs for devices outside of Apple's warranty. This is when I referred to Apple's warranty being just 1 year, but I had a broken phone that broke after about 14 months. And I quoted the Consumer Rights Act 2015 and said, no, you have to repair it because it hasn't been fit for purpose for enough time, considering it's an £1,100 product. I remember the policy was to charge for repairs for devices outside of Apple's warranty. However, you're right. If the customer mentioned Consumer Rights Act 2015, or simply consumer rights, then the repair would be initiated at no cost without further discussion, provided it wasn't an obvious user-damaged item. Thank you so much for sharing that and confirming that. That is really, really useful going forward. On now to California Dreaming. From Kevin, in need of assistance. I wanted to have your opinion and your viewers' opinion on bikes that I'm looking at. Currently I'm riding a 2003 BMW F650 CS, which I bought new and has been nothing but great for me. People love these bikes, Kevin, these 650 BMWs, they love them. Continuing, but it's finally time to move on and pass that bike down to my son. I love standard bikes, not only for the look, but for the casual riding that I enjoy. If I want speed, I can go on track. I've gotten my choices down to the Triumph Speed Twin 900, Kawasaki Z650 RS, and a Moto Guzzi V7. But, as my wife often says, I have a habit of over-researching, and now I'm not sure what to go with. My everyday ride consists mostly of straight 60 to 70 mile-an-hour roads and some sweeping country roads on the beautiful Central California coast. That leads me to the next issue. Do I want or need the bigger displacement version of the bikes? What are your thoughts, Kevin? Kevin, okay. You said some important things there for me. Central California coast, mostly 70 mile-an-hour roads with sweeping bends, so decently fast sweeping bends. Bigger displacement is at the back of your mind. Now, you have specifically said that bigger displacement part of your email. You've mentioned that for a reason, because there is some element of you that this has been niggling away at you. Should I just go for something slightly bigger? And you're changing bikes, so why not, when you're changing bikes, go for something really very different? Kevin, the bike that I would recommend for you is, and now I've ridden the Norton Commando, I can, in my mind, guarantee it at least, the Triumph T120. If you're thinking about potentially getting a bike with a bigger engine, it means that it's in some way, shape or form, a dream of yours to at least see what it's like to get one of these massive engined bikes. And the T120 is a staggeringly good bike. It's a 1200cc beast, but it's got the most exceptional manners that you can imagine on a bike. It will munch up the highway miles. It will just let you sit back and relax and enjoy all of that beautiful California scenery. And imagine riding a T120 around California, Kevin. There is a certain romance to that. These T120s are bikes for life. They're incredibly special. They are, I really mean it, in my eyes, the king of the retros. They still are. They've been around for a while now, but still for me, there's nothing that tops it. And I found you one, Kevin. I haven't been lazy and just found you one in the UK and said, look, here we are, here are the prices. I found you one in California from a dealer. And you'll be delighted to hear it. They're actually slightly cheaper, in my experience, than they are in the UK. Very slightly. These are a big, unstressed 1200cc engine, about 80 horsepower. This one's got 39,000 miles on it. And take a look at it. 5,000 US dollars. For all that, there really is no reason to go anywhere else than this. You can get a dream level bike, $5,000. Can you imagine cruising around California on that? And I've specifically picked this color. It's really nice with all that sun, the beautiful weather that you've got, to go for one with the red and silver color combination and the brushed metal side engine. The brushed metal side engine casing. I love these bikes. Kevin, if I were you, I'd be going for one of those. The happy fact that they're such good value is the cherry on top, the icing on the cake, whatever you want to say. Kevin, let me know what you go for, but I would be going T120. On now to Bike of the Week. I had 3 people, again, exactly the same number as earlier, 3 people mentioning this exact bike, and I've picked Steve as the bike of the week and the story of the week. Freddie, I have recently returned from an unbelievable motorcycle adventure of nearly 3,000 miles. From northern England via Harwich ferry to the Hook of Holland, from there through Holland, Germany, Denmark to catch another ferry to Norway. A loop around Norway. I mean, these pictures are, Steve, you need to blow them up and put them up as posters on your walls. These are incredible photos. Lost where I am now. A loop around Norway with a ferry from Oslo to Kiel in Germany and a return leg home via Harwich. Norway was our goal. The west coast and Route 44, then the fjords, mountain passes, ski resorts, famous Lillehammer, and finally Oslo. The roads and scenery, totally amazing. Jumping on and off ferries, tunnels under the sea, sky-high bridges, frozen fjords and mountain passes. Roads under repair and booking accommodation a day in advance made this a real adventure of a lifetime. Add to this, I'm 55 years old and my uncle is 70. Plus, we both used new for us bikes due to various reasons, but this added to the fun. My uncle's 6'4" and rode a 15-year-old, get ready for these 2 bikes, 15-year-old BMW R1200 RT, and me at 5'8" rode a 2017 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse 1811cc, 1811cc. Wow. We both purchased these bikes only 2 weeks prior to our departure date and were faultless the whole trip. So this just goes to prove that age isn't a barrier, height isn't a barrier, and if you get the right machine for you, you can do anything. This trip exceeded our expectations and Norway should be on everyone's bucket list. Steve, it really does look like the trip of a lifetime. Here we go, bike of the week. It's not going to be the Indian, it has to be the BMW R1200 RT. This is and was the police's bike of choice here in the UK. The specific model I'm going to look at is the 2005 to 2009 model. It's 110 horsepower, 230 kilograms, and you could think, okay, that's getting up there weight-wise. But I think my Triumph Bonneville's weight is about 224 kilos. So you get all that bike, and it's just 6 kilos heavier than the Bonneville. These things, they do intergalactic mileage. I've almost never seen motorbikes where commonly they're at 80,000, 100,000, 120,000 miles on the classifieds. Have a listen to the mileage figures that I found while looking for this specific bike of the week. These are all from BMW R1200 RTs. I found one with 103,000 miles, one with 75, another with 75, and one with 142,000 miles. These bikes were made top to bottom to be able to mile munch as efficiently as possible. Listen to what Bennett's say about the R1200 RT. BMW built their formidable reputation on their Taurus, and the R1200 RT is probably the best of the breed. Quite simply, it is one of the most refined, competent and hassle-free Taurus you can ever hope to buy. Have I sold it? Let me show you my pick. I haven't just picked the first one here. I've really worked hard, I promise you, to find a really good value one, with okay mileage on the clock, not that that bothers me too much, but one that looks genuine and also in really nice condition. Okay, I may just have slightly lied there, saying it was lowish mileage of about 40,000. That is not true, I forgot. The one I picked is an 87,000 mile bike. Don't be put off. These are only just run in BMW R1200 RT terms. This is why I've picked it. First of all, have a look at the quality of the bike. And is that not just the best looking BMW RT? But further than that, have a look at the driveway. This is a rider who takes care of his driveway and his house and his motorbike. And anyone who has that immaculate a driveway, completely de-weeded, is the kind of person that I want to buy a motorbike from. And then take a look at the other picture. He's also a genuine biking enthusiast because he's got a Triumph, I think a Bonneville, with a beautiful red sidecar just behind the BMW. So we've got a biking enthusiast and someone who takes care of everything they own. It's got full service history. See, this is why I picked it. Yes, it's got high mileage, but I would rather buy a high mileage motorbike with full service history than a 40,000 mile motorbike with no service history. So full history, MOT for 1 year, ABS, electric screen, heated seats, heated grips, cruise control, radio, CD player, good tyres, recently serviced, £2,950 or nearest offer. That means, I think we can safely say, added 19 days ago, that we could get a decent deal, maybe £2,500. And can you imagine getting all of that bike with all of that quality for £2,500? That is, in my eyes, a brilliant bike of the week. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Have a brilliant week. I'll see you all in the next one.